Black Moses Rising, everybody. Give yourselves a big round of applause. Woo. Now we're gonna have the panelists come up. Can I have everyone who was in the film here? Was that Bimpe, Mia X, Aisha? Where are you, Aisha? Yeah. Aisha Glover. Nina Cook John. Come on up. Gonna be a little informal. He is here. Okay, is the mayor still here? Let's see. Well, the mayor was in the back. He did want to speak, but he had to leave. He did love the film right now, but we're going to have to say we will hear from him another time, not tonight, but we'll just talk to everybody that's here. So I just want everybody to know, let me sit down first. I just want everybody to know that this could never be possible without the kind of mayor that we do have, Mayor Raz J. Baraka, a poet himself. So give him a round of applause. And Igor, can you come up, please? Come on, Igor.
No introduction.
All right, so now we're gonna do a little panel discussion and then we'll have a Q&A after. So, my first question, before I even start another one, I have to give a shout out to the Director of Arts and Cultural Affairs for the City of Newark, the fabulous Miss Fayemi Shakur. She couldn't be here tonight, she got sick and she didn't wanna infect us all in here, but we do miss her, and I hope you all will see her at another event coming up. So without further ado, we're going to start with our questions. And the first question goes to the artist and the architect, Miss Nina Cook John. Woo-hoo. All right. So we'd like to know, you define yourself as an artist and an architect. What's the difference between the two practices? And why was, as an architect, why were you interested in public art?
So the differences between being an artist and architect, I mean, technically, to call yourself an architect, you have to have gone to architecture school, take some exams, and legally be called an architect. Mm-hmm. But to be called, the work is similar. There's art in architecture, for sure. But art moves you in a pure way that without needing to be defined logically like architecture does, right? Mm-hmm. So for architecture, as a designer, you have a specific brief. They're really practical considerations. It has to do really specific things. But art is really about touching people in a place that I think architecture has limitations and can't reach. So I think that's how I define them as being different. You know, architecture has to answer to people and regulations and logic in a very practical way, and I think art has to answer in a more emotional way.
So what made you interested in public art?
So when I work in the architectural realm, oftentimes it's inward looking, right? It's either for private spaces, you know, whether it's for offices, commercial spaces, they're very inward looking. Even though buildings have a facade and an exterior, you interact with them in a very different way. Public art, for me, is a place where you not only connect with the physical artwork, but you connect with other people who are also connecting with that artwork. So in turn, you kind of connect with other people in this public space, right? So it's a physical thing that has a life in a very public place. People might be just going to take the bus and they pass by it, right? It's not in a gallery. You don't have to pay an admissions fee to actually interact with it. It's just a part of your everyday life, and you can interact with it in a really intentional way where you plan on going to visit whatever the artwork is, or you might just be leaving work and walking by it and stop for 2 minutes. So I think really interacting with people in the public and really giving over whatever you create to the general public in a way that they can make of it what they will is actually empowering to me. And so that's why I really am interested in public art.
Wow, I love that. Okay, let's talk to one of our artists for a minute. But before I even start, I forgot to introduce myself. My name's Michelle Morgan Trevelyan, and I'm the project manager of arts and culture for the city of Newark. And I am a lover of art, and I'm a lover of your poetry that you just did up there. So Bimpe, Faga Bimbo, Imbo. Fagayembo. Fagayembo. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Okay. I'm trying to get there. So what goes on when you're creating a poem, like especially when you're commissioned to write one? What's your process like?
I think that the commission process is unique for everyone, but I think what made it especially unique for me is that I'm a stream of consciousness poet. And if you're not familiar with that kind of poetry, I write what I'm thinking as I'm thinking it. So it was a little difficult at first because, Harriet Tubman was not at the forefront of my mind. And so I had to actively research her in order to make her a topic on my mind so that I would be thinking about her. And so I read, watched, listened to a number of resources, biographical resources, and also was given the literature created by the historians that contributed to the project. So thank you for your work because, that was crucial for me. And so once she became a topic in my mind, I would write down every thought that I had about her while I had it. I mean, I could be brushing my teeth and I'd be like, she walked from Maryland to Delaware. And I was like, how many miles is that? And then I would go and research how many miles that was. So that was the process for me. And then once I was able to get all these thoughts down, I also knew that it was going to be something that people would hear, not just read. And so I had to ask myself, what do I want to tell people not only about Harriet Tubman and her narrative, but what do I want to tell people about themselves? And so once I did that, I had to ask myself a number of questions, and I knew that I wanted to tell people that they were worthy of the fight that she fought. And so that was my process. Yeah.
So now when you were being filmed by Yuri Alves, who is
my brother,
your brother, Igor's brother, who filmed that, how'd you feel while you were up there and reciting it? Was it a hard thing to do? Was it different from performing in front of a live audience?
It's always different.
Yeah.
I remember the day of the ceremony, you can viscerally feel everybody's energy. And that's really, I think, what me and my sisters would agree to, that we love being in front of people because you can feel their energy and you can look in their eyes and you can make connections. I don't even know if I cried during the ceremony, but...
You didn't, but we did.
Oh, okay. Sorry. But, it's a different energy. But I really appreciate Igor, Yuri, Gabe, the rest of the Dream Play Media team, because they were so lovely, so patient, and they cared a lot about this project. Poor Igor. He had to reach out to all of us, and we're not easy. We're the worst. So, but he cared so much about the project and paid so much attention to each and every one of us. So that experience was relatively new, but enjoyable. So thank you. Yeah.
Nice. So now we have Miss Aisha Glover, the head of urban innovation at Audible. She's a boss. All right. So Aisha, what was it about this project that made Audible want to be involved in it, and how important was the storytelling for you?
Yeah, so I think I touched on it a little bit in the video. A lot of people don't know this. This is our global headquarters. Like, our founder moved here with intention in 2007 to be part of the city's revitalization, like not in a passive way. So we are literally right across the street from what was the Christopher Columbus Monument. And the mayor left, but I don't remember if I called him or Fayemi first, because the decision, the Christopher Columbus statue had already come down. The decision to publicly commission Nina Cook-John to serve as the public artist had already gone out. And I don't remember the exact moment, but it was a little bit like, how can we not show up? Like, how can we passively watch this happen in front of us, right? Literally in our front yard. And so I reached out, like I've done many times with both of them, like, I got an idea. And fortunately, they were just always so gracious and open to sometimes my crazy ideas. But the reality is, Nina Cook-John was also open to it, right? Like, as a public artist, she could have just been like, no, we don't want this corporation kind of coming and trying to add to the vision. But I think collectively understanding the place that we were coming from and why we wanted to do this, not just because we're headquartered here and this is the park that happens to be in front of us, but like, we're globally the home of storytelling. And we have a commitment to amplifying underrepresented voices. Like, how could we not try to tell this story, share this story in a way, you know, that's additive? And we're an app. Like, we don't do public installations. So when Aisha comes with this crazy idea, this is our first and only publicly accessible permanent installation. Everything else exists digitally, right? So for us to make this level of commitment in our headquarters, it was really important to us as a company. And then for me personally, I just felt so connected to the project, connected to Fayemi, the mayor, Nina. And we were in the trenches, weekly phone calls. I think I had some staff here. Like, we were in it from start to finish. And it was just really important for us to add to what Nina's vision was, to add to what the mayor's vision was, and Fayemi, and then Nina's creative vision, and say, how do we make sure this actually comes to life in a different way? And so just to add to the craziness, I also asked the full studio team at Audible to make this accessible all around the world. So we turned it into an Audible original. It's accessible on our app. And it really amplified the story of Tubman's story and of Newark's story of freedom and liberation, even that much more. So it just felt like really a no-brainer for us.
Very nice. Okay, now Mr. Filmmaker, Igor Alves. Okay, so for Black Moses Rising, what was your main goal and how it's reflected in the short film and storytelling? Did you produce the Harriet Tubman Monument?
Well, our goal was to honor Nina and this entire team and all these partners that came together in Harriet Tubman's legacy, and not drop the ball on that. Number one, like, if we drop the ball on that, there's gonna be problems. So that's why I really did care so much, you know, and really dug in there to be like, okay, let's get a good pacing going and cover whatever we could, because this fabrication, you know more than me, went on for for a long time, and we didn't have that many days to film it at. So we tried to get access to key milestones. We built in some little tricks and stuff to cover more distance, like with the time lapses, and try to get you different looks. But really to try to have this story have a heart and have a soul, which I think is what this project is about, and that it touches people, and that it makes people want to discover even more about it, right? So that was the goal, and to make the people here also proud and happy of what we brought to the table.
So let me ask you this. So in today's social media setting, I'm going a little bit off the book, a little bit. All right, I just have to get loose now. Fayemi was supposed to be the moderator, and I stepped in like 2 hours ago just to take over. So I'm trying to go off of her questions, and I just gotta be me, so the hell with these right now. All right, so in the age of TikTok and social media and all of that, what do you say to people who just say, well, why didn't you just do this on TikTok or social media? Why did you have to go through spending all this money and make this whole elaborate thing? Why was that important?
Well, because it's like McDonald's versus a restaurant sometimes. I'm sorry. Like a fine restaurant. I mean, that's the first thing that came to my mind. It's like there's fast food media in a way, and then there's the stuff that you hope can last, and is the thing that like people will share with their family and with their friends and feel like a legacy piece for them and the artists involved. And that's the difference also between film and video. And you know, and so like having my brother involved and being kind enough to also be really committed to those poetry films, like that's like bringing an artistic filmmaker layer to this project, because we knew that there were really quality artists involved on all sides. Like I can't let the opportunity slide to just be in awe and thankful of all four of you. You know, Queen, Mia, Beanpay, and Jasmine. And so we wanted to honor them in something that is not just going to be shared for like 15 seconds on this day and then it'd be gone. You know, like I've tried to advocate here for a while that you try to do stuff that can last, and then its value will be apparent many times over.
So we're going for any awards that you're aiming for by doing this film?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, first of all, it's about touching people and making them feel inspired and entertained and educated. And then the award stuff is great. I mean, it validates. I have two things I could share on that front. Like, I mean, I don't know if he's in the building, but apparently the general manager of NJPBS said to us that this will premiere in February during Black History Month on PBS. And this is maybe a surprise for her. So my brother Yuri submitted one of these, because you can only submit one. He submitted the first one that was ready, which was Mia's short film, Harriet, to the oldest film festival in New Jersey. It was called the Black Mariah, now it's called Thomas Edison. And apparently it won something already, so that's cool too. So, yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's important because it's exactly that kind of stuff that also buttresses the argument that it's worth investing in and committing to storytelling that's longer than like 30 seconds. Not that there isn't a space in it that it's not complementary. We do that stuff all the time too. It's like about building an ecosystem so that like you give people some nibbles and then they want to like dig in deeper and like come into a room. And I want to thank everybody for being in this room and experience it like this, because like sometimes the stuff that looks good on the phone just isn't going to hold up when you see it this way. And all of that detail about like the sound design and like the quality and the color work. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much. Can I just thank our team though? All right.
Thank your team. Thank your team.
So like,
beautiful.
Like the color work, like I'm saying, like with Gabrielle, with this amazing color work, like, and Victor, who helped me with the editing so much. I was so annoying to him on Black Moses Rising. I don't know, like he had to take like deep breaths, I'm sure, many times when we were doing this in August. And oh my God, man, I'm still drawing a blank. Peter for filming, and Carrie, I want to thank all of you and the commitment and the loyalty and the love that you keep showing. And I hope to make you guys and ladies, Carrie's not here today. I'm so upset because she had an injury. But to make you proud to see it. And of course, my brother, who somehow people are like, oh, you're not in the same room at the same time. But I swear, me and him are different people. He wishes he could be here. He's overseas. And he's incredible. And I'm always just like amazed, even though I'm his brother, at what he can do. And so I hope you also got to feel that as well in the films that he directed.
So I just want to ask, since we're going off script, because Igor is, he talks a lot, but he is otherwise very humble, like Emmy Award winning, like really, really quality. I've had the privilege of working with him on several projects, and I want to call it out, A, to give you your flowers, but B, because Newark deserves the best, period, right? And so it's not Igor, why did you decide to do this project? Oh, Audible, why would you? We should be doing this work here, right? Like, Newark deserves the best, the most experienced. And I love that you're here, you're local, you're reinvesting back into the city. And it just says a lot for when we get quality and we get what we deserve, like the work just speaks for itself.
Well, since you just segued into that.
The zinger I want to say is like, it used to be back in the day, it was like, oh, that's good for Newark. Nah, none of that.
It's just good, period.
It's just
it's
good,
great,
worldwide.
period.
Like, that's what we're trying to be about. Like, world level.
Yes.
All right, that's it.
And then since Aisha stepped up like that, corporations coming into art world and seeing stuff like this, how do you think like the corporations should step up against this racial justice and supporting art like this? What do you think, what are some of the things that you think that corporations could be or should be doing?
They need to do every and everything, right? It's not a checkbox. It's not, we've all seen and read like the influx of funding that came following the murder of George Floyd. I always like to say, first of all, I'm not a corporate exec. I've been at Audible for 3 years, and I'm professionally an economic developer and a nonprofit leader, right? And so for me to come, I had to really understand where they were coming from and their vision. This is by no stretch an endorsement of a corporation, but for me, the values had to align, and I think if we're trying to solve systemic issues through programming, it's a mistake, right? It has to cover programming, it has to cover public policy, we have to be making direct investments. And I have the privilege of being able to do that from my seat now. And so for us, all of the art in this neighborhood, around Tubman Park, around Newark Broad Street Station, we've invested over $1 million in Newark artists in a year and a half, right? And so it's given me the freedom and autonomy to be making some of those decisions and be putting heads together with many of you. Mm-hmm. But it's it's just a responsibility. How can we not? And more importantly, as individuals in these roles, no matter what your title is or where you happen to be working, to continue to lead with that level of intentionality and with your values, that's what stays consistent, right? I'm fortunate enough to have an employer that's yeah, go ahead, go for it. But I've joked with many of you here, I feel like I've had the same job for 8 years, even though I've been in 3 different roles. But that's because the intention and the values stay the same, right? So it's not just a program, it's not just a person, it's not just one public art project. It's consistently saying, what's the difference that you're trying to make? And that's what it means for me to be a servant leader.
Great. And with that being said, my artist here, and this is for Nina and for Bimpe. And I want to know, for the little upcoming artists, the little Bimpes that are in the little boys that are out there that are coming up and they're looking at you as a poet and they're looking at you as an artist and an architect, what are some of the, what would you like to say to them so they could do some great things like that you've been doing? To the little ones, whoever wants to go first.
Bimpe is also a filmmaker, by the way.
Even more,
just
that's
so you know.
one more layer. Okay. Well, as black women, we're kind of everything. We do it all.
I had to learn something during this process.
Harriet?
I think I would say that that's a tough question, but I think I would say that being an artist is not just about being able to perform a skill or a craft, but it's, in a lot of ways, it's a calling. And with that, you need to be truthful, you need to be honest, and you need to be those things with integrity. You know, I think about a lot of the artists that I grew up admiring, and like Fela Kuti said that, with regard to music, that music is serious business. Art is serious business. You know, he said that it's serious business that must be handled carefully, and it's also spiritual. And so I think the role of a poet, let me just speak about that, is to edify people in a way that's truthful. You know, I think sometimes, at least within the past 15 years or so, there's been a contemporary focus, especially with poetry, about being like aesthetically pleasing or being clever or, you know, being relatable. But those things don't create freedom for people. And so as long as we are always answering to the idea of truthfulness, then you're going in the right direction. And so that's what I would say.
And what would you say to the young, aspiring little boys and girls out there that like to do what you're doing?
That it's hard. And that, but you realize that it's worth doing. You know, on a project like this, I had been working in architecture, residential, commercial, retail space for like 20 years. I could have kept doing that, right? But I really knew that I wanted to do more work in the public realm. And so it's a risk, right? You're moving into a space that might be uncomfortable for you. It might be harder work because there are more unknowns. You're doing new things. You can't just keep doing the things you were doing every day. You're in new spaces. The learning curve is really high. You know, every single fabricator that worked on this project, because both the formal challenges as well as just the coordination, said this is the most difficult thing that I've ever had to do. But they were all dedicated to this project because it was worth it. Because not only it was a monument to a freedom fighter, but because it was something new in the repertory of what they were already doing. And so it was worth it to get to that other place in spite of all the hours and really the innovative work that we had to do to get there. So it's hard. It's hard work. You're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be afraid. You're going to doubt yourself. You're going to doubt the others. But really understanding that it's worth it and it's worth going through that process is really what gets you to the other side.
Great. All right. So now we're going to open up to questions from the audience. We have a microphone over here and a microphone over here. If somebody wants to come up and ask a question.
Can I just thank more people? I just feel like thanking so
Your
many
list is going to be going
Can we
on
thank
forever.
you?
Right.
Wait, can we thank you?
Thank
I know everyone has said
Your event,
how
go for it.
patient you've been, but you had a vision from the beginning of how you were going to tell this story. And I think from, the fabrication, meeting in the fabricator's office, meeting in the museum, and interviewing each of us, you had this vision. And you asked us to be patient with you while you were being patient with us to put it all together. And I think it was fabulous in the end, so thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I chase people on emails. And on texts. I'll find you, Jasmine Mans, wherever you are. I will keep finding you somewhere. So anyway, I want to thank Imani here at the museum. because what you just experienced here tonight, and this is something that matters to filmmakers, you know, and to the craft that we want to put into it. This is a 4K projection, which is the only 4K projector currently in the city of Newark, and it arrived this morning barely through Panasonic's donation of it, and it may not be here long. And I want to put a shout out for anybody with some corporate dollars, and otherwise, to make sure that the city of Newark has at least one, hopefully more, 4K projector in theaters that are accessible for filmmakers to screen, to do this kind of work, because that's exactly, going back to your question, how it can look so different and so great, because this was filmed in 4K, and it's meant to be seen this way. So I want to advocate for that, and I think the museum is taking donations or whatever wants to contribute. Panasonic, are you listening? To making that projector be permanent. And so I want to thank that. And I want to thank Andre, and I forgot to mention him before too, by the way. And I think we're going to take a photo afterward for the people who contribute this. Okay, cool.
So anybody,
That's
so everyone, you artists here that were in the film, Mia and Queen, make sure you come up and take the picture after. And we also, too, want to thank, what was it? I have to go to the notes for this. Okay, Newark Happening. They donated bags, right?
Yeah,
Did they
they're
donate?
helping with the event a little bit too, and all the other partners are
Right, all the other
more
partners.
committed.
I want to thank the City of Newark, Audible, Newark City Parks, Newark Museum of Art, Mellon Foundation, Newark Happening. You got some more? Those are
not me.
off the
I don't know.
top of the
Aisha
head.
probably knows better than
Aisha,
me.
you know more? That's it? I'm good? All right, any questions?
David from Bloomberg.
David from Bloomberg and Associates.
100%.
Yes, Bloomberg. And did we forget anybody else? No?
Probably.
We probably forgot, and anybody that we forgot, I'm sorry if we forgot, the Newark Public Library. Yes, yes, yes.
Oh my God,
And we
Noel too.
Noel. All
right,
yes.
anyway.
So we have a question here.
Hello, my name is Amber Warren. I am a Spelman alum, but I'm also a proud daughter of two Newark natives. I wanted to know, as inspired as the liberator and the artist, I have a question for balancing ego, because having that weight of being called Moses and being led as the Messiah and just everything I think Harriet resembled to me, she always seemed humble first. So I just wanted to ask anyone that feels free to answer, as you grow in your careers or your steps or your paths, how do you remain humble in your leadership?
Mothers. My mama made me be humble. She'll still tell me to take out the garbage, clean up, whatever. Your family brings a lot of reality to me in my world.
Yeah, I think for me, I was kind of mentioning it in my answer before, right? Like, if you're purpose-driven or you're driven by something greater than yourself, then that in and of itself is really humbling, right? Because then it's not all about you and what you could do. Like even if I just think about economic development, technically my work can like never be done. Right? So for me, it's just really thinking about like what my North Star is and what drives me to do what I want to do, because the moment it becomes about me, then I've failed. Right? Like if you're not thinking about the impact that your work has or other people that you're bringing up along the way, then it also just feels like really superficial and like just self-serving, right? So if you move out of the self-serving kind of box, then that is hugely humbling, right? If you stay in the self-serving box and it's like, oh, I got this, I did this, I can point to this project and that project, and so that's what drives me, and because of that, it is an insatiable appetite towards impact, and I will never reach the end, and I'm perfectly okay with that, because that means I'm serving something greater than myself.
And I think the entire time that I was working on the monument, it was really about rethinking what a monument was. And it wasn't about lifting up a singular person, but really understanding how what we see as a hero is actually a human, but a human who is supported by community, right? Harriet Tubman wouldn't have made it through that many times without the network of the Underground Railroad. There were shared codes and stories, which is why it was really important to include those stories of the Newark liberation movement, as well as the people in Newark today, to connect to her story through our stories, with the understanding that no singular leader acts as an individual, acts as an island, right? And then the entire process, really the making of this, we did have these multiple weekly calls where there were so many fabricators on the calls, helping each other with technical issues. It was a group effort across the board in every single step of the way, which is why all of us on the stage today really celebrating in this project. We even made the decision that it wasn't about the monument, it was the Harriet Tubman Monument Project, because the workshops, the events that were at the museum, this film, the commission of the poets, the commission of the play, was all a part of the larger project. It wasn't only about the monument itself. So really understanding, again, the kind of greater, the goal, ultimately, and how you fit into that, and realizing that, which is really what determines the success of the community and not of an individual.
And that's Newark, right? Like, Newark is so collaborative anyway, right? Like, that's how we're gonna continue to find these successes along the way, is the greatness and the sum of the whole. The moment, and I say this as an outsider, the moment you think it's about you as an individual, right? Like, that's the power of so much work that happens in Newark, is really around that collaboration.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I think we have someone there. Oh, sorry.
You want to?
I want to echo just what Bimpe said about, like, it's the intrinsic value of the work and the craft and the calling that, like, you serve almost. My brother says this a lot. He goes, it's like there's like a thing that you're serving a higher calling, and you have to learn how to channel it through you in your work. And he's like, and there's so much sacrifice that needs to happen in order for you to, like, block out everything else in life, in order for you to get into that flow, but that there's nothing like it, and so that automatically I put every artist or creative or even entrepreneur in a very humbling place, because you're serving like a greater mission and a greater vision. And if anything, it's about protecting your heart and not being too fragile, because there's so much vulnerability. Like, you do something, it's like, it's up here. Like, you expose yourself. Nina's like exposes parts of herself in this work that she does. And so there's automatic vulnerability, I think, built into every artist and everybody who dares to do something that is supposed to be seen and experienced by others. So, I almost feel like it's like the other way, where it's like you just want to find strength in that vision and that dedication and not fall to pieces when it doesn't meet your expectations.
That's good. And as Erykah Badu says, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about mine. Okay, go to the questions. Let's go. Back to the question.
Yes, good evening. My name is Himza Harvey. I'm a New Yorker, a native New Yorker, and I live out here in Newark, New Jersey. I'd like to thank you guys to bring to the community. It's very inspirational. My question is, I grew up in Harlem, New York, and we have a large African American museum, and I would like to know if you are going to bring this to other states, other cities, the schools, educational, because you hear such bad, negative things about Newark, and it's good to see something like this. I knew about Harriet Tubman, but not in depth as I learned tonight. And I would like to know if you're going to share this with, like, the high school educational.
Are you talking about the films and the
yes,
poems?
yes.
Oh, I'm open-minded to that, and hopefully the partners will get together, the brain trust, and find ways that this can disseminate. Like getting it on PBS is a step, right, towards that. Getting it into some festivals. I'd love it if there was a collaboration with school districts in order to make that happen, and other museums. But I believe that there's already a curriculum linked to the project that they can talk to.
There's curriculum on the Newark Museum of Art website. There's that curriculum is actually also accessible on Audible. So if you go to the landing page for the audio, the Audible original that we produced is called Monumental. And on that page, we have links directly to the curriculum that the Newark Museum of Art took the lead on developing, and it actually incorporates audio footage. Is it called footage when it's audio? Audio clips? I should know this. Edit all of this out. Recordings. Audio recordings are available on Audible. So yeah, there's audio recordings that have been incorporated into the curriculum, and that's available far and wide.
But this particular project right here, are you, not only in the school industry, but are you taking it to other states as well?
Well, this is the premiere tonight, right? Of like this stuff. I want to just like soak that in. Like it's a miracle to get to here, okay? So how far it can get, like basically, like my brother says this too, where he goes, this is a bit dramatic, but our family can be in the language. But it's like, he's like, whenever there's a film that he creates, he's like, it's like as if it's a baby that now he's released. I mean, he's a guy, he's not a woman, he'll never know, but you know what I mean? Like, he's like, now it's up to the world to embrace it as well. It's like he's like feeding this baby out into the community for it to be raised among the audience. And so we've done sort of like our part here. And we, of course, as any filmmaker or performer, like you want the work to be seen, but there's only so much you can control. I mean, I could put out that good juju out in the world. Maybe it could be incorporated into already what's already in place. But we're on it. I'll take that good energy and let's bring it to all the states. Why not? What's up?
All right, thank you. And we're going to take the question over here.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say thank you very much for this presentation. The Newark Museum, this is my second event that I've come to, and it's been very... It's my second event that I've come to here at the Newark Museum, and it's been very inspiring. My question is very simple. From each of your perspectives and the contribution that you all have put in, is this it?
Never. Never. It's like Aisha said, it keeps going and going and going. Keeps going, like the Energizer Bunny.
There's so many fights that all the people here on stage had to do in order to just even be able to expose their craft and put this project in place, that I just think that we need to, number one, celebrate that and be grateful for how far like this project has already gotten. I've been lucky enough to have like a front row to certain parts of it, but my gosh, this is like the tip of the iceberg, and so I think we need to just like celebrate like the people who push through all of the nonsense, all of the in order to just create things that can be proud of, like the Harriet Tubman Monument, like what Aisha and Audible have been able to do, the beautiful work that these amazing women have done, and my brother. So like that's where I want the energy to be at. You know what I mean?
And with that being said, we're going to wind it up, and that's it. We thank you all for coming out this evening. We want, well, oh, I'm sorry. You can come back. No, we're going to take, I know. Well, okay, one more question. This is the last question. And that's it for this evening.
Hi, my name is Mayera. I'm currently a graduate student at Rutgers Newark, and I'm writing a research paper on the Harriet Tubman Monument and the socio-political spatial changes that have happened there. Just this history and how it's being impacted and how it's impacting the community. But my question actually is for Ms. Nina Cook-John, who I had been corresponding with via email. And I was just curious to know about your process for like just having the monument and like the face and the statue itself, because you can see it even from down the road. So I was wondering if your process included it to be as visible as it is, and how important was that to you?
So, I touched on a little bit before this idea that it was important to understand the kind of multiplicity of any person, right? We can't, and Harriet Tubman especially, because she was so many things, right? You heard Noelle talk about it in the film. She was a scout, a spy, but she was also a cook. In Cape May, there were simple things that she did to contribute to the larger cause. But in this park, as you can see, if you've been through the park, there are a bunch of other statues still there. So she needed to claim some space in that park, right? Mm-hmm. You needed to be able to see her amongst the other statues that still exist. But it was important to me for you to also be able to physically touch and connect to, I usually work abstractly, so just an actual figurative representation of Harriet Tubman in a different way. So that duality was an important part of the representation of Harriet Tubman.
And hearing her. Everybody knows that the monument speaks, right? And everybody knows who did the voice of it, right? Who was it? Good job. And on that, we're going to wind it up and say any fabricators, storytellers, anybody that had something to do with tonight, please come up so we can take a picture. And for everyone else, good night, and thank you so much for coming out.
Free bags on the way out. Free bags.